right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Bottom Turnbuckle. I'm your host of this episode, Major Hurt, but I'm joined by...
the Fat Man.
And... oh, wait, here we go.
The Tim Tam Slam.
There we go. Your panel of wrestling experts. I've never seen WWE history or past matches until now, so anything before present day matches totally new to me. Eric's been around the bend here. He's seen it all. He's our resident historical expert, and then Tim's a little bit of a hybrid, I guess you'd say, right, Tim?
Yeah, I got a little bit of knowledge, but not. A lot of this is still new to me. So.
All right, so we're in it. We're here to digest wrestling, and we're here to spit back out our opinions. And we're starting off this episode.
I just want to know if historical expert is just code for old.
You know what? Take that as you will. I said what I said. You know, we can interpret it in different ways. But anyway, we're kicking off this episode with the inaugural SummerSlam 1988, Madison Square Garden. We've got 10 matches, and so we're gonna have 10 opinions. And let's kick off with the very first match.
Opinions, because it's gonna be three for each match.
You know what, Tim? I signed up for wrestling, not math.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, let's kick off with the very first match of the night, which is going to be the British Bulldogs. That's Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid against the fabulous Rougeaus, which is Jaquez and Raymond Rougeau. I have no expectations going into this. Hopefully it's going to be a good match. Let's see what SummerSlam has to go with right at the beginning here. Let's jump into it.
Hailing from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, here are Jacques and Raymond, the fabulous Rougeau brothers.
Standing ovation here, superstar.
They deserve a standing ovation. They're incredible, and we're going to see some fantastic moves out of this group of tag team competitors right before our eyes.
Okay, so that was match number 1 of SummerSlam. The longest match by far, I believe, of this event, as we've determined. Before, I'll let you guys jump in your opinions first, but just to kick us off here, I gotta say, my take on the fact that they could only have gotten away with this match because it was the first one, I think. For as long as it went, and for the lack of resolution on anything, this match ended in a draw. I think that if this was placed anywhere else in the lineup, I think that probably the crowd wouldn't have been nearly as into it. That being said, though, Tim, I'll let you kick this off. Do you have any big pops? Do you have any DQs? Any high-risk maneuvers you want to talk about?
Big pop, just in general, is for this match, just as a whole. I actually didn't hate this match. It was very long, and it is it's probably the first time I think I've actually seen a match go to the time limit, which is interesting. It didn't actually even feel like 20 minutes. It felt, pretty brisk, maybe around 10, 15-ish. But no, both teams for, having a lack of a story and just being a match just was actually pretty good, very competitive, a lot of drama going on. Matilda just being there, all good things. DQs, I gotta say, I don't know. I mean, as much as I enjoyed the match, I will say, the ending was a bit of a letdown, in that, nothing was really resolved. It just kind of ended. And they were in a perfect position because, one of the Rougeaus was being pinned, so they could have just ended it there, but they just went with the time limit ending. Overall, good match. High risk maneuver, I guess I'd say, they did it twice, and I mentioned it while we were watching it. That split move always looks very painful.
It does.
I know, obviously, they know how to do it or whatever, but just the image of that is very uncomfortable.
All right, Eric, do you have any big pops, any DQs, any high risk maneuvers you want to discuss?
I think the for me, the positives, the big pops of the match was it's just two great athletic teams who knew how to walk the ring, knew how to walk the arm bars and the hip throws and all that kind of stuff. There was always something happening, and then they'd have those little headlocks and armbar breaks, and then we'd get more action again. So even though it was like a long match, it never felt long. There was always something happening in it, and you get it's like I said, like in previous episodes with Greg Valentine or Bret Hart or something. You know what you're gonna get, even if it's not the at least for the Rougeaus, like the apex of tag team wrestling. They always gave good value for money, so did the Bulldogs. So yeah, it was overall an entertaining match. My DQ though would be, it seems to be a habit. We've talked about how the overall production in the show has progressed from WrestleMania 1 onwards, but they still seem to start off with some sort of like bum move for the first matches, either a match nobody cares about or a really unsatisfying finish. So I think the time limit draw, given how long, if it was a 10-minute time limit draw, I wouldn't have been so upset with it, but a 20-minute time limit draw, you really want a resolution in that match one way or the other. And then to finish it with them chasing the Rougeaus, the Bulldogs chasing Rougeaus behind the curtain, never to be heard from again. Like, they didn't really do the cameras in the back in those days, following those kinds of feuds. So it just kind of like disappeared. It's like, okay, so let's move on to the next thing. We will update you if anybody gets killed later. But that would be my high risk maneuver. Would be, I always loved when David Boy Smith would do the press of Dynamite and then throw him onto the headbutt to whoever was lying on the ring, on the canvas. I always loved that move. It looked number one athletic, obviously, because you have to lift another 200 odd pound man over your head. But if you could do it with your mates against somebody you didn't like when you're a kid outfield, you'd probably do some damage to both of you. So high risk enough to be entertaining. Yeah,
pretty much, Eric, building off what you said and kind of what I said at the beginning of this commentary, I definitely think, I agree very much so that this first match, like, once again, they threw the kind of warm-up, kind of throwaway match right at the beginning, the long one. I'm not sure why they throw this in at the beginning instead of like an attention-grabbing match, but I do think that if this had to be anywhere in this event, it probably makes the most sense to put it right at the beginning. But yeah, no, I mean, both of these teams were really well matched. I think it was pretty equal, pretty seasoned tag teams we had going against each other. It didn't really seem like any one team had a huge leg up over the other. Yeah, I mean, my DQ would definitely be just the lack of payoff. I think that, as Tim said, this probably could have ended with which one got pinned? I'm sorry,
it was one of the Rougeaus.
Yeah, it was one of the Rougeaus. Do we remember?
I think it was Raymond Rougeau was getting pinned by Dynamite Kid.
It definitely felt like it could have ended there, and so dragging it on definitely felt like a little bit of a cop out, and it was a little bit of a disappointment. But high risk maneuver again. I'm trying to wrestling move names, or I'm trying to stick, but whatever was that thing where it's almost like he hit one of the British Bulldogs, kind of flipped him over. He hit him on his shoulder, and he kind of like did that spasm thing. What is that called?
Was that the atomic? No, it wasn't the atomic.
Power slam?
Power slam.
Maybe it's a power slam. Any move that looks like it hurts in real life, that's automatically a contender for high risk maneuver in my books. That looked brutal. I don't know how much he was playing up that reaction, but if he was playing it up, he did a great job, because it looked like that left a mark, and he'll be feeling that the next day for sure. Yeah, I guess without further ado, let's move on to match number 2. We've got Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera. Let's get into it.
This contest is scheduled for one fall. Currently in the ring from Harlem, New York, weighing 271 pounds, Bad News Brown. And his opponent, from Portland, Oregon, weighing 267 pounds, former Olympic great, Ken.
All right, so that was match number 2. We had Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera. I'm gonna say before I throw this off for your opinions, I think Bad News Brown, as we kind of were discussing during the match, is a prime example of classic 80s wrestler like body types versus modern, because Bad News Brown really had the dad bod on lock. You know, there's no chiseled Greek god we had over here. We just had a real down to earth. It's a guy. He's buff, he's tough, and he's ready to fight. And it really was a piece of like 80s, snapshot, really. But yeah, that being said, Eric, I'll kick it off to you first on this one. Do you have any big pops, any DQs, any high-risk maneuvers you want to discuss?
The big pops it was mercifully short. I was never a fan of Ken Patera. I didn't like him that much. I did like Bad News Brown. I thought he was a great heel. Not heel. He was actually more of a tweener because he didn't like anybody. Apparently in real life as well, he just didn't care for anybody in the whole business. But he was a good bad guy who wasn't quite the bad guy, because, as I said, he was just as prone to double crossing other bad guys as he was the faces. But yeah, the positives of the match was just short. There was nothing hugely interesting, I thought, in it, which would be the DQs. It was just a very bland, not even a pick me up after the weird finish of the first match. It was literally just here are two guys, they're both and they're going to throw some moves together. I will say though, like I'm glad that Bad News Brown won. I liked win an awful lot in the main events. I think after this one, WrestleMania Battle Royal, and then this thing, he tended to be the one that gets beat. But he just looked the part. Like, you didn't want to mess with him. Like and I think that was the case in real life. You just didn't mess with him. So for me, like, just the shortness of the match and the fact that Bad News Brown won be the big pops. The DQs was just nothing happened. Nothing of any real consequence. There was no jeopardy involved in the match. It was literally, it could have been a minute long, it could have been 11 minutes long, and still nothing would have what made you want to, like the way we are with the Junkyard Dog in every single event that we've watched. We want him to win. He never does, but we want him to. I didn't get any of that from this match at all. The high risk maneuver for me, I love that Ghetto Blaster move, that swinging roundhouse kick to the back of the head, because that one would actually kill somebody in the real life, in a real fight, if you managed to do it. So it was a doubly high risk maneuver. But yeah, it just, as I said, like, you'd expect a better pick me up after the first match, and that wasn't it.
All right, Tim, do you have any big pops? Do you have any DQs? Any high risk maneuvers you want to discuss?
Just echoing kind of what Eric said. I don't really have much in the way of big pops for this. There wasn't really anything that made me go whoa, or like any big giant moves or anything. There was, I guess I'll just go straight to the DQs and in kind of the same vein as Eric. For me, it's just, there wasn't. You can have a match that's just a match and still tell a story in the match. Like, maybe Ken Patera is trying to get the full Nelson on Bad News Brown and he keeps slipping out of it, or something like that. There wasn't really anything. It was just two guys kind of fighting each other a little bit. I feel like they could have done something. There was something actually I was thinking about after we watched WrestleMania 4, and that even though it was a tournament, I still felt like every match still kind of had a flow to it, where, like, there was something happening every time. This was just, two dudes just doing some moves to each other. I feel like this in the last match, if this show was on today, these would be pre-show matches, rather than like opening the show. You know, just to get some guys out there, fill some space, get a paycheck, you know, whatever. And for high risk maneuvers, I'm gonna give it to Ken Patera's haircut. It was high risk coming out to a fight looking like that, and that is my review.
All right. So just a question to you guys, as someone who really is not familiar with this era of wrestling, has previous to this match had Bad News Brown and Ken Patera have they fought at any point? Like,
they probably had some stuff with in like the Superstars Wrestling shows, but I don't think there was any major. You know, like the Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant kind of feud. I don't think there was a major thing. It was probably they set it up, if I remember, just in the weeks before they announced the matches. Bad News Brown and Ken Patera have a bit of static with each other, but just to try and create some excitement about it, because there's really no reason for them to have any feud, if I remember. And I think Ken Patera was on the way out as well. I think it was just probably a better explanation would be just a way to get Bad News Brown on, because he does take part in a few feuds, like mid-card kind of feuds, in the next few events.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have necessarily as negative a view on this match as you guys did. I don't really have a particularly great one either. I think it's just kind of, it was there. It was a match. It happened. Bad News Brown was definitely my pick to win, so glad that he got the W in this scenario. But I mean, yeah, it was pretty pretty milquetoast. It was just two very different wrestlers fighting each other, and it was okay. It was pretty uneventful. That's really my long and short of it, honestly. So interested to see how they take it from here. Very strange event so far, I gotta say, when directly compared to WrestleMania and even Royal Rumble thus far. But yeah, next match we've got Rick Rude and our hometown favorite here at the bottom turnbuckle, Junkyard Dog. So I'm excited to see what happens. Let's get into it.
Approaching the ring area, led by his manager,
here he comes!
From Provincetown, Minnesota, weighing 252 pounds, ravishing Rick Rude.
Bobby the Brain Heenan leading the way down for his man, Ravishing Rick.
Down on that man right there.
Grab down James.
North Carolina, weighing 282 pounds.
Listen to this ovation for JYD.
Just standing on their feet, Gorilla Monsoon.
It's an amazing picture.
Okay, I know, honestly.
Imagine explaining that to someone who doesn't watch wrestling. Like just that moment. He got on the top rope, pulled his tights down to reveal the face of a woman.
The face of a woman.
Punched him and then gyrated in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, Tim, you really set us up. That couldn't be a better intro to this segment. What we're looking at here is quintessentially what just happened in this last match. Of course, it was Rick Rude versus Junkyard Dog. Rick Rude right there, effectively emoting over Junkyard Dog's defeated body lying in the middle of the ring. I got hands down, very entertaining, hilarious. While once again you had your typical, unfinished match, because essentially you had Junkyard Dog and Rick Rude go at it right from the beginning. Rick Rude taking an early lead, getting a lot of hits in on JYD. And then it culminates in Rick Rude getting on the top rope, pulling down the tights, revealing Jake the Snake's wife on his tights, and then it gets Jake the Snake comes in enraged, hits him out of the ring. Rick Rude gets hit out of the ring by Jake the Snake and ends up in a disqualification for Junkyard Dog. So once again, Junkyard Dog is shorted. And all we're left is the memory of Jake the Snake's wife on Rick Rude's ass. So Tim, thoughts on this match? Do you have what big pops, DQs, and high risk maneuvers? What do you got?
I gotta say, really like this match. Big pops. I think the best moment, and this might be my high risk maneuver, was this whole sequence, because it's just when you just like, as I was saying it earlier, I couldn't. It's weird that that sequence of words just came out of my mouth. This is the bullshit that I love wrestling for. Just ridiculous, kind of like, I understand the story, and like it's the thing that can happen is like a man tries to make the moves in someone else's wife. I get it, but like when you put it in the context of a wrestling match, it's just fantastic. I love like the ridiculousness of it. I mean, and DQ, our boy, we love him, but he can't catch a win, and it's the saddest thing. Hopefully, we're always like, is this the last we're gonna see the Junkyard Dog? I hope not. I hope one day we can finally see the Junkyard Dog debut, but until then, we're still left with this. But overall, fantastic match.
All right, Eric, what do you got? Big pops, DQs, high risk maneuvers.
I think like the big pops are in contrast to the match we just saw before that. This was number one. We had stake, we had skin in the game. We want the Junkyard Dog to win. Rick Rude is just superb, absolutely fantastic performer. And he knows how to walk that crowd. Like when you hear on other podcasts and read articles and all that about wrestlers who knew the psychology of the match, I thought Rick Rude was generally one of the best. He knew how to get the crowd to hate his guts, and he was an expert at that. And especially he knew how to get them to hate his guts when he was fighting clearly one of the most popular wrestlers, if not one of the most successful on the roster at the time, in the Junkyard Dog. So the positive for me, it was just two good wrestlers, two good characters, telling a great story of the match, and then probably one of the best characters ever interfering in the way only he can. My DQs, I don't have any DQs of the actual match itself. I'm going to go with Tim. The Junkyard Dog can't catch a break, and he is the permanent underdog. He is the Dallas Cowboys of wrestling. He just can't seem to win when it matters, and you just feel bad at this point. I almost want to put him out of his misery. But
just make a belt for him.
Just want to fill him with air and just watch him float away. And
let him fight Matilda.
Take him to the rain. No, they'd probably make him lose that as well.
You're probably right there.
You just want to take him to the Rainbow Bridge and say, run and be free, Junk, because that was his first name. Run and be free. So that was the only DQ. The high risk maneuver, I just like the entire depantsing of Rick Rude. It just it was literally a high risk maneuver because he pulled his pants down by his knees and then jumped off the top turnbuckle. That could have went so very, very wrong in so many ways, but it was just a great moment in the match, especially the hip wiggle afterwards, before Jake Roberts came in. So yeah, just like this was the match that we needed after the Rougeau brothers. Overall, if they'd have flipped the order, I think already we'd be excited to see what was coming next.
All right, so I mean, obviously, I've pretty much already agreed with everything you guys just said. The only thing I'm gonna wrap this up on is submitting this concept. So of all the people for Rick Rude to do this against, right? Like, why did it have to be Junkyard Dog? Like, think about how much more high impact this would have been if, say, instead of Junkyard Dog, Rick Rude is facing, I don't know, Hulk Hogan, and just did the exact same thing. Everyone would be losing their minds. I would, at least. I don't know.
But see, then Hulk Hogan wouldn't be the center of the story. He'd be.
It would be so fun. Like Junkyard Dog is just like, why are we? He's already dead. Like he hasn't won an event like this. Why are we kicking him like this? Like why did he deserve this treatment?
I feel like
that's
that
just
also.
Me. I don't know.
That might be part of it because, like, as much as we love him, at the end of the match, Junkyard Dog was just kind of like
he just looks bewildered and like flustered and just like he was looking at Jake the Snake. He was like, "What? You just it was all too much."
It's the look of resignation of somebody who hasn't won an event in the last 5. And also the look of resignation of somebody who was told he was going to win this event and then it didn't happen.
Eric, you can probably tell us. Does Junkyard Dog like ever get his revenge on what's it? Not Rickard, the other one. Why am I Jake Roberts for costing him the match?
Because Jake Roberts was a face in those days, so they didn't really have that face against face kind of thing.
So Junkyard Dog just like loses and then
fades into oblivion, I think.
God, poor JYD.
So while Junkyard Dog got this treatment, hopefully our next match will have slightly more equal footing here. That being, of course, the Powers of Pain versus the Bolsheviks. So let's check that out.
That's it. Look at that mask coming out here, Gorilla Monsoon, brother.
All right, so that was match number 4 of SummerSlam 1988. We had Powers of Pain versus the Bolsheviks. So once again, our favorite bumbling Russians back into the ring for another. Every time I see them in the ring, I can only assume it's like some weird, like, I don't know, capitalism versus communism statement. But at least on this one, you had the Powers of Pain, who, in my opinion, are just branded way more interestingly than the Bolsheviks by far. I mean, they look way cooler. While they're a bit campy, to my taste, but still, they're pretty cool. They look like, they did look like warlords and barbarians. So pretty well fitting, entertaining. You knew the Bolsheviks were gonna lose as soon as they got in the ring. But that being said, you know what? It was entertaining. Powers of Pain had really good synergy. They were fun to watch. Bolsheviks, I don't know. They're just very underwhelming to me every time I've seen them fight. I don't know what you guys think. But Eric, you can kick this one off. What are your big pops, DQs, maybe some high-risk maneuvers?
I think the big pops was seeing the Powers of Pain, like, because that was like a sea change almost for tag teams in the WWF at the time, is because we've seen the almost the trapeze artists, like the high flyers, the like Strike Force and that, and then like the fat slobby ones like Demolition and Big John Studd and whoever else that was a fat slob they could get with him. But this was like a sea change. They were trying to copy the Road Warriors, which became the Legion of Doom in the WWF. Demolition was supposed to be the force, but literally the only thing they copied was the leather gear. But with this one, this is what the Road Warriors looked like in the WCW. But they had 7 million times more charisma than the Powers of Pain, who would always have a manager, I believe, if I remember correctly, until they split up. So it was a good match in terms of seeing them. Like, they dominated, which is what you want to see, and they were capable of a lot more than you would think given their size. My DQs was just like the Bolsheviks, both of them, like Nikolai Volkov became like a lovable post Glasnost hero in the early 90s, but Boris Yukov, it's just like you got your dad to wrestle, like you're like a free ticket to wrestling, and he had to be the wrestler. Just horrible move sets, really slow and sluggish, and just added nothing to the match. The pair, and it really looked like two tramps fighting against two bodybuilders, which is probably what it was. So that'd be my DQs. My high risk maneuver was the finishing move. I like that whole, when you get big, large, like muscle bound pieces of rock that can actually jump off the top rope and look good doing it. that to me was always an extra special thing. But again, that was the Legion of Doom or the Road Warriors. That's what their thing was. So it was interesting to see it done there, but they did it well. But overall, like, it was an interesting match for the Powers of Pain. But other than that, it was like the Bad News Brown match. There was nothing at stake in it.
All right, Tim, what do you have for us? Any DQs, any big pops, any high risk maneuvers?
So first, before I start, question for both of you, and I think Jesse, you actually also pointed this out in your description. This is the first time we're seeing the communists fight someone that isn't rah America rah, right? Like, there was no flags being flung. This was just let's fight some dudes, right?
Right. Well, I mean that's kind of what I was getting at before. Where it's like I feel like every time we see these guys, the Bolsheviks, it's always in like some weird, like almost like a referendum on capitalism versus communism. So yeah, it's for me. It was a breath of fresh air to just kind of see just two tag teams against each other. One of them happens to be like communist themed, but yeah, I don't know. Is that where you're going with?
Yeah, I was gonna say it is very. I don't know. I mean, I like to see like that kind of gimmick taken out of the context of that. Like, yeah, it's just two guys who are also communists.
Who happen to be communists.
Yeah, they just happen to be communists. Sorry, I have a hair in my mouth. Yeah, I don't know. But other than, besides that being weird, I liked the match. It was, four big dudes just kind of beating each other up. Powers of Pain looked awesome. If they weren't, if the Road Warriors didn't exist and it was just the Powers of Pain, I'd be like, these guys are amazing. And I still like the Bolsheviks. They're goofy and obviously the whole like boo communism thing is stupid, but like I don't know, they're around. They're cool. We needed some guys for the Powers of Pain to beat up. Here they are. There wasn't really anything outwardly like bad. And I didn't really find myself, thinking, wow, this match is going on too long. So overall, I decently like this match. I don't really have any big pops or DQs. I will say, high risk maneuver, the Barbarian kicking the shit out of both of them. Like he had like,
yeah, he did, yeah.
That was amazing. Like Eric was saying, when you get a big man who can move, that's always a plus in my book. Yeah.
All right. I think we said it all. Without further ado, let's move on to the halfway point of this event. Flying by. All right, we've pretty much said it all. Without further ado, let's move on to the Intercontinental Championship match.
We're all waiting here with anticipation as to who the opponent will be. Well, maybe we haven't got an opponent.
Well, maybe we have an opponent, but, maybe he's still lacing up his boots. Who knows, man?
Wait a minute. Somebody's music.
That's familiar music, brother.
They've exploded here in the garden. I don't see anybody yet.
Here is the SummerSlam.
It's the Ultimate Warrior.
One man. Oh, look at him attack.
This place has gone bananas.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry. Just go ahead. Let's do this.
Let's do this. A match that certainly happened. We're talking, of course, about the Intercontinental Championship match between Honky Tonk Man and the surprise opponent, Ultimate Warrior. Yes.
Yep.
Ultimate
Warrior.
The Ultimate Warrior. What can I say? I mean, he went. Honky Tonk Man went from going, "Get me somebody to wrestle. I don't care who it is," and you know what? They got him someone to wrestle, and it was this man, Ultimate Warrior, who defeated him in what was that? 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Came out, basically socked him in the face, laid him out flat, gets on the top ring, body slams him, pins. It pretty much was that simple. Get more or less. Gave him the old 1-2, truly. Yeah. Tim, big pops.
I'm really trying to hold
DQs.
That was amazing. I'm sorry. That was
high risk maneuvers. What do you got for us?
Big pops was the whole match. DQs was the whole match. High risk maneuvers was the whole match. What is happening? That was amazing. I would have been like, okay. I was gonna say if I was watching that live, I would have been pissed. If I was watching that live and I was a kid, I would have loved that. That would have been amazing. I can see why the Ultimate Warrior was probably popular with, the youngins. He's, he runs to the ring and he just hits you a bunch and then he missile launches himself into you. And then that's it. I don't know what else to say. That match speaks for itself. The Ultimate Warrior certainly speaks for himself. 5 stars.
Eric, what do you got? What do you got for us?
The big pops is the whole lead up to it. For a start, it was important to watch the whole lead up to it.
It was. Now I understand why.
Nobody expected it. Is the thing. He'd only been on since what was it, WrestleMania? We saw him last against Hercules.
That sounds right.
And we didn't expect the Ultimate Warrior to be the one that comes out, but as I explained in an earlier episode, this is my entire hatred for Hulk Hogan at the time as a kid. But this was something new because it was just so different to everything else that was going on at the time. Everybody else was trying to look like somebody else, whether it was the new Graham in Hulk Hogan or the new Hulk Hogan or the new Legion of Doom or the new whoever. There was nobody like the Ultimate Warrior at the time. Absolutely nobody. He ran to the ring in a cocaine-fueled jetpack of destrucity. Destroyed literally everything in the ring, including the ring announcer and possibly the referee if he didn't get out of the way quick enough. He was known to be one of the worst actual technical wrestlers on the planet in the history of the sport, and quite literally proved it by not clotheslining the Honky Tonk Man, but punching him in the face. In what was supposed to be a clothesline, but you loved it because it was done at such a high speed and high level of intensity that you couldn't take your eyes off it, and it was 30 seconds long, so you didn't have to even think about it. It was literally wham bam, thank you ma'am, give me the belt, I'm going home. And that was our introduction to the Ultimate Warrior. I saw that happen in live, and I was an Ultimate Warrior fan forever then after that, until the racism and the homophobia stuff later on.
That's not, to be fair, that's not the Ultimate Warrior on TV. That's
the guy later on.
Also, as much as the kids loved him, apparently really kind of hated children.
Really?
I don't want to tangent for too long, but there's a story. Apparently, there was like a Make-A-Wish kid who was like backstage waiting for the Ultimate Warrior, and he just wouldn't leave his dressing room because he was too focused on the match. And then after his match, still didn't go out to talk to him. Like every wrestler talked to him, not the Ultimate Warrior, because he was just like too good for him, I guess, or something. I don't know.
His grave terminal illness was just a sign of his weakness. That's probably what his reason was.
He didn't have enough destrucity.
He was the
he didn't have enough destrucity and stronticity and warriornicity difficultness in his blood, and he was probably gay. That's probably what the Ultimate Warrior's reasoning was. But yeah, before we knew all that nonsense about him, this was the Ultimate Warrior. And the thing, as I said before in one of the other episodes again, is you just believed him, and quite rightly, because this was Jim Hellwig. This was who he was. He wasn't playing a character. He was genuinely a nutcase, and that's what we saw at SummerSlam '88. As far as I'm concerned, it's the key match in the entire event. Don't care what else happened in any other part of it. Going, and you want to see more, and by God, did we see more?
I think we said it all. Ladies and
What else
gentlemen,
is there to
this is the end of
Sorry.
the first part.
Just before we end, I do
Right.
want to say there is one DQ. There was not enough distrusity.
That was a lot of distrusity.
There was just enough. There was enough, but there wasn't enough.
We'll see
That's
what
the
we got to do.
contradiction of Jim Hellwig and the Ultimate Warrior.
We got to load up the rocket with rocket fuel. And I don't know what else. Whatever, just go.
There isn't enough. There isn't enough randomness in the world to make up on the spot an Ultimate Warrior speech. So we're good. We can't do it. Only the man could do it himself.
Now we've definitely said it all, ladies and gentlemen. This has been part 1 of the Bottom Turnbuckles viewing of SummerSlam '88, aka the inaugural SummerSlam. And what better way to end it than this site right here? Honky Tonk Man getting his shit rocked by the Ultimate Warrior. And with that, we'll see you on part 2. Till next time.